This is Karl Gerber. Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show is coming back to KABC in its real format, 1 hour of sketch comedy and other variety, starting July 24th, 2022 at 8 p.m. AM790, or listen on the internet. But there's more. We're going to be starting a separate half an hour show at 5:30 a.m. on Sunday. You guys won't go to sleep. You'll stay up all night and you'll listen on the wave. That's 94.7. 94.7. The wave at 5:30 a.m. for a half an hour show. August 7th, 2022. Those are the new times for the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. The real Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. Not that boring legal SHI dot you've been hearing. We're going to have better content, scripts, actors, action, the best comedy broadcast in Los Angeles on a weekly basis. Nobody else is scripting it. Now, I do have to tell you, there are a couple changes from the programming we used to do that ended in 2020, only a few hundred points away from being the number 2 show on Los Angeles radio. Yes, that's what happened when I went off the air. I had to attend to the legal cases, but we're going to be back, KBC, 1 hour, not a half an hour, but 1 hour of torturous comedy, 8 o'clock Sunday nights for 1 hour till 9. And then The Wave, 94.7 FM, 5:30 a.m. starting August 7th, 2022. You're probably wondering or thinking that the usual show sponsor has allowed me to get these 2 shows going, but the sad news is that Remus Helms will no longer be sponsoring the show. Well, not officially. He will be what is called a secret show sponsor. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but some shows have secret sponsors. Nobody actually knows the identity of the person sponsoring the show. Their name is never actually mentioned on the radio. They pay a lot of money to sponsor the show, and the person that has the show has the benefit of that sponsor paying for everything associated with the show, but the sponsor remains secret, which adds just a tremendous amount of publicity for the sponsor because we never actually mention the name of the sponsor. And you'll not even know that he is the sponsor, but he will be. So that is how this will be proceeding. We have an episode coming up on July 24th, 2022 at 8 p.m., which I hope you listen to on KBC. I don't know if it will be on this YouTube channel. It's very time consuming to put these on YouTube. If anyone would like to volunteer for doing that and putting pictures in and editorial comments, please contact me at the office, 818-783-7300, or go to workplacelawyer.org. Send me an email, because I know that a lot of people did listen on YouTube and the streaming services, but it took me pretty much a whole day on a weekend to prepare that content. So I would encourage you to listen live. You can also listen on the internet. And as I understand things, this Sunday coming up, we have a young lady who was working in a company, as most people do if they're gainfully employed, and her job was rather mundane. It was accounts receivable. But, well, I guess I have to tell you, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. She was doing AR upstairs, and downstairs there was another lady in a bedroom, converted bedroom that is, encapsulating umbilical cords. And in the dining room, there was another lady that was handling logistical operation of getting the umbilical cords from the hospital via FedEx to this home, which just happened to be in Sun Valley, California. So I would encourage you to listen to that episode. She also has a dilemma, obviously, because she's been wrongfully terminated, and she has to think about how she's going to have her wedding. And, well, um, well, when you're fired, you don't have any money. So you're going to have a wedding without actually paying. And, well, I don't want to say it because I can't counsel somebody to commit fraud, but we devised a way that she can have her wedding in a hotel without actually paying, and she'll get party favors too. And then the week after that, we have more stuff coming. There also is the strong possibility, given this extensive amount of airtime I have to fill, and the fact that most people don't usually write 6,000 word episodes by themselves every week, which is what I happen to do besides practicing law more than full time and running the Employment Lawyers Group. I may be having a half an hour of scripted sketch comedy, and then we're going to be interviewing people in the world of vintage for half an hour. And these will be people in the tiki movement, the retro modern movement, historic movement, Art Deco, all of the things that I get involved in. You can look at Los Angeles, vintagelosangeles.org, that website, or employeelawca.com/vintage LA. Quite a few posts of mine about how Los Angeles used to be, and that will be something that we'll be talking about, and that will be on KABC. On the Wave, I'm not sure that's what we're going to be talking about. I think we're going to do some comedy. I think we're going to warm up the church crowd that gets up at 5:30 in the morning. It's a large audience at that time. It's a very popular station. The Wave can actually be the number 2 station in Los Angeles, depending on which Nielsen's you look at. It can be a little bit lower, but the number of people listening to it is quite large at any time, and it's an honor to be able to do something on that particular station. I also feel it has a listenership that encompasses the clients that I represent, and I do want to send out messages, and we will be running shows on there about important things about equality and discrimination and historical stuff about the Los Angeles minority population, which is very interesting, often forgotten. I know right now the whole Brucey's Beach is in the news. That's the kind of thing that should be more known to a lot of people, and we have had some broadcasts already on KABC about the first black lawyers, the first Chinese lawyers in Los Angeles, California, the first Latino lawyers, first Jewish lawyer, and that kind of stuff obviously interests me also. So we will be broadcasting that type of information on KABC and quite possibly the Wave also. I would encourage my troupe who has not already been in contact with me to contact me, because we will be recording much in my studio, which is running at this point. It will not be recorded at KABC or on the Wave. It's just not necessary. And I guess I should also mention, besides KABC and the Wave, I will also be providing content-oriented material for K-Rock, which is world famous and, well, not rock of the 80s anymore, but it seems to have a very interesting programming going on. And they have brought back a programming manager that is making it sound like it did for people that were listening in 2000 when it was the number 1 station. And of course, 1983 when it was number 1 in Los Angeles. And that is my era. And if you didn't already know, I started out my record collection obtaining every song K-Rock played for about 1991. Every single song. Some of this stuff was pretty rare, and there really weren't very many copies, like C Bank or, even File 13 is slightly rare. And I did K-Rock nights. I did clubs when I was in college and law school, and I brought my records. And sometimes a friend of mine would do the turntable. Sometimes I'd get in there and I'd talk just like I talk on KBC about all this old vintage stuff. And well, we thought it was pretty old then when we were like 22 or whatever in 1991. And we're talking about things that happened in 1981 or 1982 or even 84. And I had this enormous amount of trivia about the clubs and all the songs and all the stuff. And that was just part of what I do at the clubs. And everyone would love it. And they'd say it was the best dance mixes ever. And they loved all the trivia. And so being able to provide content for K-Rock is just going to be fascinating for me, and you won't even know that some of them are advertisements. It's going to blend right in there with the songs they have and with the K-Rock culture, which I was a part of for many years. And unfortunately, in the mid-90s, the whole grunge thing wasn't too interesting to me at a certain point, and I branched into 70s and disco and lounge and psychedelic, and I just kept going with my collection. And that's why you hear so many little tidbits on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lyrics show where you hear parts of the song, because it's very easy for me to find parts of the song that has certain lyrics that relate to what we're doing, and that's very time consuming, and it's horrible apparently for my sound engineer. He does not enjoy having to pull that content, but that's one of the pluses that you get when you got Karl Gerber doing these shows on the radio. You've got all kinds of thematic music, and that's just because I've been in the record collecting business for many years. And yes, I do collect records. That's vinyl, and CDs are trash and they should be thrown like frisbees, and that was always my philosophy. And I do listen to YouTube. I don't have a Spotify account, but there's a lot of ways to hear music for free, but I still try to get LPs, and I just got one that's really rare. You know, it's the kind of thing where there are probably 10 copies floating around the whole world, and I got it from Germany, and it came yesterday. So I'm continuing to increase my library of sound so that I can share bits and tidbits of it with everybody on the radio. You're hearing thematic music here, for instance. Well, doesn't seem to be working. There you go. That's Remus Helm's theme song, and I think it conjures up some good imagery from the 1970s and, a certain type of movie you might be watching on a Betamax or a VHS or maybe even on TV or Select TV, or at the Pussycat Theater. And some of this music that you can find now on YouTube isn't necessarily available on LP or any other way. So I promise that the Karl Gerber Workplace Lyrics show will be as fascinating as it was before. We have decided to tone down on the raunchiness of the shows and see if it's just plain funny. That's something that is a challenge to me to do, because I am on one station at least that has more conservative listeners. But I got to tell you, the Karl Gerber Workplace Lyrics show was a big hit on KABC, and that midnight time was incredible, coming I think it was 200 points. I don't think it was 300 from being the number 2 program in Los Angeles, which is the number 2 radio market in the country. And I think the opportunity to do this on the wave will be even more fascinating. And that audience will allow me to do some content that's a little bit different than just sketch comedy, because, it's early in the morning, and if you're waking up to go to church or you work in a hospital, well, you might not want to be hearing stuff that's quite so raw. So we may focus on the historical stuff. We may focus a little bit on the legal stuff. And if you remember the early episodes of the Karl Gerber Workplace Lyrics show in 2018, a lot of them did have legal content incorporated into completely absurd things. We had the largest database of sanitary napkins and so on and so forth. going on, and people were learning about wrongful termination and sexual harassment and breach of contract and all kinds of things in employment law by listening to our programs. And that's a little bit of the spirit that's coming back on this. There's going to be a little bit less focus on the neuromassage clinic, but I do have information on Myron Alfumbra, pronounced Matting but spelled M&M. I suspect, and I have sensors out there, that he's involved in a new business, and you're just going to have to hear about that on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, Talk Radio 790, KABC, 8 o'clock to 9, and quite possibly The Wave, 94.7 FM, 5:30 to 6 a.m. on Sundays, starting August 7th, 2022. So be there or be square.